Hello and welcome to Paper Plays Julie K.
Thanks so much for stopping by and spending some of your precious time with me today to look at this gorgeous journal that I created. I'm really excited about it. I have been working on this journal for quite a while, and just mainly because I've been busy and working on outdoor projects, and I finally finished it the other day and just had to sit down and record it because I'm really excited about it. I actually use scrapbooking paper instead of digitals this time, and the scrapbooking paper is from Blue Fern Studios. It's called Bird Waltz. It's gorgeous paper designed by Jen Bishop, and she does create digitals, and so I will link her digital shop below if you guys are interested in checking it out. I did include a lot of laces and trims and leftover bits and pieces from past design team projects in here, and past projects there are some vintage laces and some new laces and trims. I also used some trims from Angel Dreams Crafts on Etsy. A while back I won a couple of laces from her in her Facebook group, so I did use those laces in this journal, so thank you for that, Kim. And getting into it again, it is a fat journal. It's 3 inches wide. It has 2 signatures, and again, I just enjoyed the process and I wasn't concerned with how big or how small it was going to be. Before I bound it, I did think about breaking up and just doing 2 smaller journals with each signature, but I decided just to leave it as I had originally planned. On the side, this beautiful trim right here was just some that I had picked up from Hobby Lobby off of the clearance, and I went ahead and added some flat back pearls down the middle. There's a little bit of trim showing through, and it wraps around the cover, and so you'll also see that on the inside. And there's just a little bit of just basic lace right there that you can't really see much to that one. And this one right here is some gorgeous trim that I picked up at the antique store, so I was really excited about that and had to use it on the cover. I probably would have used it inside the journal, but I had pretty much completed it by the time I got that trim. On the cover, I used some paper, some ephemera that came with the kit, or the paper collection that says the Bird Waltz, and then I used the little bird piece there. I had this frame in my stash. This was a wood colored frame, and I ended up chalk painting it, and then I ran ink over it. And I don't think it's going to show up on camera, but it almost looks like there's a little bit of crackling going on in there. So that was kind of a cool effect, and I went ahead and added the flat back pearls. I added a whole bunch of flowers up in the corner. This one, part of this one I made, and this one I made. I added some bling in the middle of it, and this one I added the pearl. This part is store-bought. It was from this trim. And I also made this little rolled flower right there, but the rest are all store-bought. And I used some tea-dyed lace for my closure, and you can see that there's a piece of material and a piece of burlap and another piece of lace underneath there. And this journal is very tattered and torn. I ripped most of my pages, and then I had to do one more little quick shout out to Kathleen Sunby here on YouTube. She makes gorgeous journals, and earlier this year I had been watching a few of her journals while I exercised on my exercise bike and was very inspired by them. And she did a lot of tattered type journals and a lot of sewing and piecing together pieces on, and then using material for the binding part of it. And so I was very inspired by that, and also some of her ephemera that she did where she ripped up paper and kind of collaged them together and stuff. So a lot of this journal was maybe inspired by her, and so I just wanted to thank her for that, for the inspiration. And so I will leave her channel below. She has so many wonderful videos that you can't go wrong by watching any of them. And so again, I did a lot of sewing. You can see it on the side. I sewed in most of my laces and trim, which is probably why it took so long to do this journal. And just bits and pieces left over from design team projects. I made this little journal card with a paper bag. And then I have to tell you about this paper that I got. It just looks like paper bag, but it's handmade paper. And a couple of years ago, my dad and his brothers went to Cuba. It was something they've been wanting to do since they were little boys, just from learning about Cuba in their history classes and just some of the stuff, past history with Cuba. So they went, And when my dad was buying tourist things, you know, at the local market for everybody, they wrapped it in this brown paper. So my dad had to take the paper back home with him just so I could use it in my junk journal. So I'm finally starting to use it. So thanks, Dad, for that. And so I just had to point that out, just how you can use bits and pieces and still make them look pretty, even though, you know, most people probably would have thrown that paper away. But my dad kept it because he was thinking I would be able to use it, and he thought it was neat that it was handmade craft paper. And let's see, this trim was some that I got from Kim that I won, again, from Angel June Crafts. It's a beautiful trim. I don't think she has it in her store anymore, but she has very similar trim to that. And here I just have a flip out, and again, inspired by Kathleen Sunby. She uses a lot of material, and so I use that for my flip out right there that I sewed on. And I did tea dye my paper, and I stenciled it, and you can see there's some stamping on it. And I also took some music paper and attached that. And this one just says Bird Spring Greeting. I thought the name of the song or the waltz that it was would match perfectly with this paper collection, so I used it. And it has some old vintage paper that I had, music paper, and it was pretty brittle and fragile, so you can't really use it to fold into your signatures, but it works good for stuff like this. So I was happy to use some of that in here. Again, just lots of stamping of sentiments. I did some little piecing together with leftover bits and pieces, laces, and trim. And this is a doily right here. And again, I think this piece right here was kind of inspired by Kathleen. But I did have some layers in here, and I used my leftover bits and pieces of paper to make small tags so I could stick stuff in there. And then also when you buy scrapbooking paper, each page sometimes has a name. And so this was one of the names of the paper. It was called Scripted Melody. So I tried to use those kind of throughout the journal. And that I might have to glue in. I think I meant to sew it in, but it's kind of coming out. So I'll have to just add a little glue into that so that it stays in there. And then I sewed onto the journaling card just some trims. I did add some music paper, and I sewed some ephemera onto the pages. More music paper and some stamping. I grunged up some of the laces and trims, and then I also tea dyed some of them. This was left over from a design team project, this piece right here, but it made a beautiful pocket, and then it has the dangles hanging off of it. And I made some tags, this scrapbooking paper. And then this is the other trim that I got from Kim that I won, is this background flower piece right here was some trim that came from her. And so I cut it up. It was a long strip. Cut it up, and I added more flowers to it, and then some other pieces behind it. And I like using eyelash trim, so I use that kind of throughout the journal. Another little tag that I sewed and put together. You can see the stitching on the back. And then here was part of an envelope, a bigger like 6x9 envelope that I cut up. I was going to use it in the actual journal as a page, but it was so fat that I ended up just cutting it down the middle, and then I attached it here and then another spot in the journal. So here, again, another cut off from the scrapbooking paper. And that one says Butterfly in F minor. I added some more of that. Leftover bits and pieces of the scrapbooking paper, and I stamped on that one, added bits and pieces there. There is a pullout right there for a little journaling tag. And then I had a butterfly paper clip, and then when you open it up, more paper, but I did make a little shaker right here, which was kind of fun. And then in here, I think I just have tea-dyed paper. Yeah, just some tea-dyed paper to journal on. So I thought that was kind of fun. I don't think I've ever done a shaker in an actual journal before, so that was my first one. And I just add the little butterfly clip just because it kind of opens sometimes, and I just want to keep it closed. And then inside here, there is another journaling card that I just added some laces and trims. I did ink all of my edges on everything. And then here again is another little flip out thing that I'm just holding together with a little bird paper clip this time. And I made a tag to go in there. Added some more trims, but this flips out like this and folds open. And so here I did sew on some tea-dyed paper, but here I left it blank in case I wanted to add a photo or something to it later. And then same with here too, you could add a photo, but you could easily glue in some more tea-dyed paper if you wanted for journaling. And I left this blank for journaling other than I put a little snippet up here. You know, lots of little snippets that I added. Again, the same kind of paper as I've talked about with the music and the stamping and the stenciling. Lots of stamping, and then this is my middle of the first signature, and I added flowers to the ties. I like doing that when I can, adding things to the ties. Some gorgeous trim down there. I added a couple tags with laces, snippets. Here's a little pocket with the tag that I sewed on. And then here's a belly band. And again, I used some of that craft paper, and I just added some lace, just a remnant I had, and a couple doily pieces. And another Kathleen Sunby inspired little journaling card. You can still journal all over the stitching, but I just think it's so cool with all the exposed stitching. Everything just kind of repeats itself a little bit. Here's another pocket. And I thought that was kind of fun, adding the little half doily on the side. And so it kind of shows out, and it shows through the side of the book too, the journal when you have it closed. Another journaling card. And another tag. So I created all the tags and everything after I made my signatures, and then I filled the pockets and just tried to use up the bits and pieces so that I wouldn't have so many leftover paper scraps. The other part of the doily, and again I just tried to incorporate some tags from the leftover bits and pieces that I had. And again at the bottom I have this little snippet and added the part of the scrapbooking paper, the name of the paper at the bottom there. More stamping. Here's some more vintage lace that I've had in my stash. I think I'm using most of that up. This was just left over from another project, and it was just sitting in my snippet basket that I have sitting here on my desk. So up here, I think this is a Kathleen Sunby inspired thing that I saw too on one of her videos. But she just has these folds that you put over either the side of your page or the top. And then you can stick tags or journaling cards underneath them. But there's more that paper that my dad got in Cuba, music paper and a doily. And then I sewed on it, and I also added eyelash trim. And so here, yep, here I made a little book. Again, just using bits and pieces left over from projects, just coffee dyed, or not, I always tea dye, I guess, tea dyed paper, and then I ink my edges. So that one's a little bit grungy, but really pretty. I'll put that back in later. So another tag, and that completes the first signature. And again, I just made a little snippet down here with some flowers. I love doing that in journals and on projects. And since this was such a big journal and there was this big space right here, I decided to go ahead and add just another little leftover piece of cotton trim. And I added a pen, so my pen's always in there, or a pen's in there so you can journal with that. Then the second signature, again, just lots of laces and trims. And again, I used material to hold and glued the, or not glued, but sewed the paper onto the spine for that one. Here is another flip out, but it flips up. And just a spot to journal back there. And then underneath here, there's a pocket. So I have an ephemera tag in there, and then also a tag up here. And then I made the pocket out of music paper, and then I sewed on just some leftover paper that I had torn off of the edge of one of the papers and sewed on the butterfly. More leftovers, just made little snippets to hang off the sides. And then this music paper that I used here was called Dancing Butterflies. There was butterflies throughout this paper collection, so I thought that one was appropriate. And again, that was some old vintage music paper that was kind of brittle and crumbling. And I used, it's matte medium, if I remember, I'll try and dig that out at the end of the video, to glue my papers on. I don't use Mod Podge. I know a lot of people use that, but I have found when you live in the in environments that can be humid in the summers, your pages will stick together when you use that unless you sand. And so I use the matte medium instead to glue on my papers and napkins. And just another doily, paper doily that I added little tags in with the leftover bits and pieces of the paper. You know, you can always, you know, write on these and journal on them, or you can end up gluing them back on somewhere else. Some stamping, music paper with a sewed on ephemera. Just another little piece of ribbon that I sewed on. Some more stamping. More of Kim's trim from Angel Dean Crafts. Another cute little tag that I made. Another little snippet piece that I added with flowers and ribbons and eyelash trim. And then I have 2 pockets on this page. And I added a tag. And then also here, a journaling card. And again, I just tried to use bits and pieces that I had sitting on my desk in this journal, just trying to get rid of things. A gorgeous little applique that was left over from a design team project. Some trim up there, and then another Kathleen Sunby inspired journaling card, just, you know, using that paper from my dad and coffee dyed paper that I had stenciled on, and there's music paper and part of the paper collection. And a little bird I added, and then I added that little trim. I thought that was kind of cute, showing through. Snippet, some more older lace. I don't know if I call it vintage, but it's like 20 years old, so it's older. It has a vintage look to it. In the middle of the signature, again, I added the flowers, and I probably, in hindsight, after I glued them, I was like, oh, I should have tea dyed those, but they were already glued on. Some more stamping, some more trim off the side, another belly band made from some cotton trim. And another one of these. And again, here's that flower from Angel Dean Crafts, the back one. You can see it a little bit better. And then I used part of an applique on top of it that I had left over from something else. That worked good as a center. And on this one, let's see, there's a spot to put a tag right here. And then it's actually a belly band again, and so this does come out, and it's just some ledger paper that I tea dyed and inked, and then I put some trim on the side of it, and then it hangs out. It looks kind of pretty off the side. And then on the back side, again, another Kathleen inspired, I don't know what she calls these again, but this time I just used music paper and half of a doily and some trims, and added the name of the piece of paper that I used somewhere in here called Lyrical Arrangement, and added another one of those journaling cards. That was the lace again, I think from Kim. Again, those are super cute. You just put them over the tops or the sides of your paper, and it just holds whatever you want to put in there. So in this case, it was a journaling card. Some more stamps. A lot of the stamps I used in this were from Graphic 45, and it was from probably the Time to Flourish collection. It's kind of a vintage feel to that one. Some more paper layering where I sewed on some of that paper from my dad onto the tea dyed paper. And then added the trims, you know, some more snippets, just a little journaling card that fit in there. another snippet at the bottom of the page, the other half of that doily. And I added some of the ephemera from the paper collection and layered up some more stuff down here, some more trim. And I made a few tags, actually sewed around those ones. Little snippet off of the side, again just using bits and pieces, some more stamping. Then here was that other half of that long 6x9 envelope that I ended up having to cut. And this one I just used kind of as a pocket to add to it. And so there's a little journal card in there, another little journal card. And then when you opened it up, because I cut off the, you know, it was closed and then I cut off the sides, or I tore them. And I just added some tea-dyed paper to journal on in there. And again, I just try to stick it like that so then this sticks out so you have something pretty to look at and it looks more like it's part of the actual envelope. Another little snippet I made. And then on the back side, there's a pocket with a couple more tags. I did stamp on those with a musical stamp on it. And another little journaling card that I added some trim to it. I think the little bluebirds in this paper are really cute. And some more trim. And then this time I added pearls to it, which that kind of bulked the book up. These are kind of fat pearls, so I'll have to remember to use my pearls in the future in my journal sparingly, because that adds quite a bit of depth to the ephemera piece, and it just kind of made it kind of fat. And then on this page I left it blank, but there's some trims on the top and the bottom that can be seen showing. And then the last page I did a final flip out, and there's trim off the side and the bottom, and then it does flip open. And then when it flips open, I have a little pocket right there to stick a small tag. And then this cute little journal card. And I didn't do anything to the inside covers because, as you guys can see, it was pretty fat already. But I love how it turned out and excited it's finally done. It's so pretty and beautiful eye candy for a while to sit on my desk to be inspired by. And again, I just wanted to thank everybody so much for watching and for spending some of your time with me today. I really appreciate it. Again, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Happy crafting,